Hello, everybody. Welcome to Just for Women Africa. My name is Olaleko Amusa, the founder of Just for Women Africa. Here on Just for Women Africa, we talk with women in business, running businesses all over Africa. And today on the show, we're going to talk on events with an events management company, which has been around for 14 years in the business. We have with us Debbie Jane Nelson, who is the founder of Think Mahogany. Debbie does a lot of things, and we'll be focusing more on her events company, which is Think Mahogany. So stick around and we'll be right back. Hey everybody, welcome back to Just for Women Africa, and we have with us Debbie. Debbie, you're welcome to Just for Women Africa.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Debbie, 14 years in the business. Tell us about that. How has that been?
It's not been easy. I would say the first 10 years was the easiest part. But from 10 years to the first decade is a blue tick. But I find it's harder now. And I was having a conversation with somebody recently, and he made a comment that made me reflect. He said, whenever you reach the peak of a mountain, you think you've arrived, just to see that there are higher mountains ahead of you. But to be able to get to the top of the next mountain, you have to come down from your current mountain, get into the valley, and in the valley, you don't know what you meet. Then make another rise up to a higher peak. And that is the only way you can really succeed. So the first peak is not really success. It's being able to cross the multiple higher peaks ahead of you is the real success.
Wow. Okay, you did mention that the first 10 years were easy. And of course, 4 years later on, it's much more difficult. What made it much more easier then and much more difficult now?
Okay. For me personally, I think it was easier then because I was the market wasn't oversaturated like it is now. Also, I was at a point in my life I was saying my age at the time made my service more appealing to a particular market. So for instance, typical example, when I started doing events, I actually introduced event planning, event coordination, event design as separate businesses. Before when you employ a decorator, you assume the decorator is going to be the coordinator, is going to help you with planning. I realized that there was a gap in the market. So I separated each of these services. So I was really known for event coordination at the time. And a lot of people getting married around that time were people my age and slightly younger. So from one wedding, I would get onto their bridesmaids or their friends, their relatives, their cousins. But then I've gone past that decade. Now people who are getting married are younger and they're using people around their age to plan their weddings. Mm-hmm. So that's moved me more or less out of the wedding bracket, unless of course I'm doing weddings for more mature people, second marriages, or people who are getting married late. So now I'm doing more corporate events and milestone events like 40th birthdays, 50th birthdays, christenings, things like that. And the reason I'm saying it's more difficult now is I do less events in a market that has more suppliers. So I need to market myself twice as hard to be able to get the same business that I used to.
Right. So which will bring me to my next question. I mean, you give a scenario where you made it more of like during your time, it was, we're catering for people your age, around your age bracket, and now things have moved on. What are you doing to ensure that you get people who are not within your age brackets, in the lower age bracket or higher age bracket?
Okay. So one thing that works to my benefit is that more than 70% of the people out there providing services now are people that I have trained. Together with my business partner, we've trained over 700 people who are currently either running their own events companies or providing services within the event space. So one advantage I have is that a lot of people will say, well, instead of using you, I might as well use the person who trained you. So it still puts me at an advantage.
Okay.
Even though the people I have trained are more or less now my competition.
Okay.
Indirect though, I would say. And also my reputation of excellence and delivery has always put me in a marketable position. So the reason why or how I still get people, irrespective of the shift in trend and shift in service providers, is because they believe in my brand. So my brand now is what sells me. Before I was the one pushing for the brand, but now the brand is pushing me.
When you started off with events management, how has things changed over the years till now?
Okay. So when I started, as I mentioned earlier, when somebody gets a decorator, they assume the decorator is going to be in charge of helping them with coordinating the event, planning the event. But when I started doing events, and I'm in a space where maybe I did the decor, and somebody comes, oh, what time is this vendor coming? Or how many waiters are here? I'm saying to them, well, that's not part of my duty. I'm here as the decorator. Coordinating vendors is not really part of my job, but they assume that you take ownership of that just because you're a decorator. So that's what made me separate and start providing event coordination as a service on its own. So back in the day, that split also really made me busy, because now a lot of people would use people they already know as a decorator, their mother's friend or a family member who's been doing decor for them for decades. But then there was this new lady on the block who was focusing on just event coordinating, very meticulous, So people were like, I want to use her for that. So that separation is the beginning of my own evils, because what's happening is now people have also thought, if I'm not a good decorator, at least I can be a coordinator or I can be a planner. So following in my footsteps, now there are a lot of companies who just maybe focus on decor, focus on planning, focus on coordination. So now the market now, as opposed to then, is I'm not a specialty service anymore, because everybody else, I've replicated my own, basically. I've trained people to do what I do. So basically, that's the difference. Before, there was only that one or two or three people to go to, but now hundreds of people to go to for the same service.
Okay, so now let's talk to us about events management. Could you just walk us through, the process of organizing an event? Somebody wants to get married, or somebody is hosting an event and they come up to you. What are the steps? What do you need from them before you start?
Okay, so first of all, me personally, I think Mahogany will do first a free 15 minutes consultation. In that 15 minutes, which is free, you tell me what exactly you want. So it's a wedding. When do you want this wedding? How many people? How do you envisage the day? What's your budget? So after that 15 minutes free conversation, then if it's me you really want to use, then we book a proper 2 to 3 hour consultation to go deeper into your event. And that is when I would go and look at the space and all of that. But the first free 15 minutes, it's also to deter people who would waste my time.
Okay.
Because a lot of people are just shopping around. So they will engage you on the phone or in person for hours and end, and they'll never even use you. They are using you to compare notes. Or even some of them are planning their own events, but they're picking your brain. So the first 15 minutes is a call, and then after that, you book me for a proper consultation where we speak about your event in depth, the objective of your events. What's important to you about this event? Are you more interested in the decor? Are you more interested in your guest hospitality, the food they eat, the music? Are you more interested in the looks, the aesthetics, how you look, and you're not too bothered about anything else? So I get to know the clients, and I get to know the objective of the event. I get to know their spending power. Then based on that, then I come up with all the vendors that they actually need for their events. I'm able to advise, okay, this space that you're looking at, and you're looking at, let's say 400 people, definitely it's not going to fit, because you're using maybe out for argument's sake 1,000 square meters. I'm just saying, for a 500 people event. How am I going to squeeze them in? Plus dance floor, buffet stations. They want a live band, all sorts of things. So you see, so I actually spend time with you now to dissect your event and come out with a practical way of going about your event. Once I am able to sell you the idea and we are good to go, then we go on to the next step where you pay me to be your official planner, and then we start planning your event. So we book all the vendors, we come up with a design concept, and then we execute. And the day we execute, we coordinate the whole event through a timeline from start to finish. After the event, we do accounts and close off, deal done.
Okay. You did mention the venue. I thought the venue would be picked by you instead of the client.
No, some clients already pick venues before they come to me. Some don't. They ask me to help them. So those who pick venue before they come to me, once they come to me, they tell me the venue and we discuss the practicality of their event, if it would actually work then fine. Some I have to advise them otherwise, because maybe they went for venue first, forgetting that they still have to pay for food, photographer, videographer, all sorts of things, and now it throws them off budget. It makes the venue too expensive. For instance, the venue might end up being, let's say, 50% of the entire budget, but they didn't think about that. So we revisit the venue conversation. If they can still have their event there, fine, we move on. If not, I suggest other venues. Some people come to me without a venue, and then I suggest venues.
Okay. Does it imply to the same thing with the vendors? Do you choose vendors for them, or they come on board without vendors?
Some people come with vendors, a full list of vendors that they want to use, especially because of this social media age now. People have access to vendors. You know, somebody will post an event, and under the event lists all the vendors that they've used. So it makes it easier for people to search for vendors. And what I usually say is that Think Mahogany, we are matchmakers. So we match your vendors to your taste and your budget. So they would come with a whole list, but sometimes it doesn't work for them. Sometimes it does work. But one thing I actually do not do is impose vendors on my clients. So for instance, videography. If a client came and said, would you suggest a videographer? I would give you 3 people within your budget. Then you look at their work and pick one out of the 3. Because I cannot take full responsibility for any vendor shortfalls. So I never impose or insist, no, you must use this person, you must use. No, I don't do that. I'll give you my top 3 within your budget and based on what you're looking for. For instance, with video, when they look at a trailer, are they looking at the trailer telling a story, or are they looking at the trailer showing off a lifestyle? So based on what my client is looking for, then I'm able to suggest.
Okay. But what works much more better for you? Do you prefer come with your own vendors, knowing that you're doing a good job, or the clients come with their own vendors?
You know, I actually like when a client comes with a list of vendors. However, it has to be vendors I've worked with before, because I don't want to now experiment with a new vendor at your expense at your wedding. Because at the wedding, you are either in the church or you're at the high table. So if that vendor is going completely off, there's nothing you can do about it. And I'm the one taking all the heat because I want to deliver a good experience for you and your guests. So usually, I don't mind if you recommend. However, it has to be somebody that I've heard of, I've used before. I can call their past clients and say, how was it working with this person? Did they deliver the video on time? Was the sound good? Did they capture all the right moments, like my first dance or cake cutting? Was a videographer present at that time and not sitting somewhere eating during those crucial moments? So I do my due diligence. I do my research.
Oh, so all those newbies coming on board, you don't take them?
No, I don't just take on newbies. I give people the opportunity, but before I do, I'll do my research. I cannot take that risk.
Oh.
I can't.
So if you walk to a client and the client had 10 vendors and you go to the 10, you have not worked with any of them before, you just go like, no, I can't.
No. Like I'm saying, first of all, you've given me 10 vendors. No. It's a big risk. For instance, you give me a totally new caterer who has never done plated service. And you're telling me that on your wedding day, you want plated service by this caterer. Do you know how much of a risk this is? Because plated service, for instance, you have 100 guests. All 100 people must have their starter at the same time. All 100 people must have their main course at the same time, dessert at the same time. Or if you're not careful, table 10 is on starter, while table 1 is already on dessert. It doesn't work that way. So the logistics have to be on point. So it's not at somebody's event that I'm now coming to go through training, keeping food hot or warm. No, I can't. My brand is at stake. I won't do it.
Okay, I'm talking on behalf of the newbies. So for new, no, because it's really crucial. I mean, you go for a job and you don't have experience, you don't have that. Okay, so you've been in the entertainment, been around for 14 years. What would your advice be for the newbies to make sure they get onto your list?
Okay, work experience. Work experience for me is a big deal. So yes, okay, just because I've bought new cameras, that doesn't mean that I'm ready to shoot anybody's event. I want to see you work with other top guys. I want to see you do your internship, until I know that you've worked under somebody that I can work with, I will not be comfortable giving, and that's the thing. The young people want quick money, want to get to the top quickly without service. And until you serve, you can't learn.
Sure.
So I'll never work with anybody who has never served. Because service also makes you more mentally capable and physically capable. Because when you've served under somebody, you also know how to be submissive, you also know how to deliver, you also know what not to make a fuss about. You know what to keep quiet about. You know what's important. You learn more about emotional intelligence, even how people react to things. But if you're a newbie, you may have the best top tech cameras, your editing skills might be on point. However, the human relation aspects might be zero.
Mm-hmm.
And events, I always try to use this it's like you're a house help at the event. And if you're not able to serve people and you're not able to deal with people when they're upset, to deal with people when they're in a good mood, you cannot deliver at an event. Because half of the time your bride is not in a good mood.
Mm-hmm.
And you still have to serve. She will shout at you. Her mother will come and shout at you. Her father will come and shout. Everybody's shouting at everybody. And until you've been trained to deliver under such circumstances, I can't work with you. Because I need you to be mentally there. I can't have you packing up your camera because the bride threw the tantrum.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's what makes Think Mahogany what it is today. A brand, taking events all over Ghana.
Amen.
Okay, Debbie, well said. So if you're also watching, could you just name a couple of events you worked on?
Okay, well, I do a lot of private events, and of course, when I mention their names, nobody will know who they are. So I would talk about names that are out there. So, for instance, Stonebwoy, the popular musician, I did his wedding. He found me on social media, contacted me. Yeah, just like that. I didn't know him before. Yeah, he contacted me. I did his wedding and then his children's christening, his birthday party, his mother-in-law's birthday party, and I've worked on his concerts. Yeah, and then I have clients like, I don't want to really name drop, but I do a lot of corporate events as well. So I've worked with a lot of, for instance, when the Vice President of the United States of America came to Ghana, I worked under the White House Communications Department to pull together the event. So that's also an event that I'm very proud about because I think I did a wonderful job, if I can say so myself. If I can say so myself. Every year, my business partner and I, we do the Jollof Rave. It's an annual event, food, drinks, and arts festival. Mm-hmm. We do this every year. This year is going to be on the 2nd of November. And basically, it's an event to put together people who enjoy good food. So it's not just jollof rice. There are other things as well, other foods as well, and drinks, and then a lot of entertainment. So I do Jollof Rave. I've worked for the White House. I've done a lot of events for people like Stonebwoy, John Dramani, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama.
Wow.
Sam George is one of my, Honorable Sam George is one of my clients. So I do a lot. I think I do all his private events for him. Honorable Nana Oye Bampuado, formerly Nana Oye Lita, she's also one of my clients. Yes, and also a lot of the corporate bodies puts me in the position to work with a lot of high-profile people like His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo as well. So I think I don't want GRA coming after me, so I think it's okay.
For viewers who are watching, GRA is Ghana Revenue Authority. Uncle Sam will come for the money.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Thank you.
Portfolio you have.
Thank you.
What was it like actually working for the White House?
It's really, I learned a lot. And I always say this to even all my students, that every event that you do is a learning opportunity. I walk into every event that I'm doing, not as an expert, but this is another opportunity for me to learn. I'm always learning on the job. 14 years later, I'm still learning on the job because I'm meeting new people every day. And now the Gen Zs, for instance, their expectation is totally different to the millennials, So every day it's an opportunity to learn. So when that White House opportunity came, honestly, I went in with a mindset to learn. And I learned so much from that one event. I mean, first of all, I stayed awake 4 days straight at the event, no sleep for four days, 3 nights, awake, not even a snooze to get it done. It was at the Black Star Square, working under very like high surveillance, because you're working with Secret Service. So you're working under high. So I learned how the Secret Service works. I learned how even the teleprompting works. I learned I learned the excellency of queuing before the vice president even started talking, what goes on before she speaks, and the management of the teleprompter. Even it's a whole technicality on its own.
Wow.
Camera works. What's important with such an event? And that is when I learned a trick that with high congregation events, you don't use white chairs. Because especially, so for instance, when I say a congregation event is, for instance, let's say a political campaign or an outdoor conference where you want to exhibit high attendance. If you put white chairs and you do a drone shot, for instance, you're going to see empty chairs. But when you do black chairs and you do a drone shot, you can assume they are human beings. So those are the little tricks that I learned. And of course, learning that, I moved it to my next event. So for instance, when I was working on the Stoneboy concert, I learned that, okay, let's not use white chairs on the pitch. Because if you use white chairs on the pitch at the stadium and you do a drone shot and you've not filled out the seats, it will be obvious that it's not a sold out show. However, if you use black chairs and you shoot from the top, people think it's human beings. So you're able to market it for your next event. So I wouldn't have ever even thought about that if I wasn't in the White House space.
Wow.
Because they do a lot of political campaigns as well, when it's their 4 years and all of that. So the ladies even in charge of that event, 2 of them worked on the Obama campaign before.
Okay.
So they also brought on that expertise. And of course, I tapped into it, and I'm also taking it onto my next job. So I learned a lot I learned, and also the importance of staging, the importance of camera work, even what should be in the frame when the first lady is speaking, what to avoid, all of that. I mean, I learned a lot.
How have you been able to market yourself to get your clientele? Is it by word of mouth, to put adverts out in newspapers, social media? I mean, you get all these opportunities working with White House, working with politicians, musicians. How did you do it?
Okay, first of all, I think my work, let me rephrase that. I was about to say my work speaks for itself, but it doesn't. I learned that in one of the podcasts I was listening to on one of these flights recently. When I'm on a plane, I don't watch movies. I listen to podcasts. And because I find that they're picking very intelligent people to be on the for in-flight content. So it must be something worth listening to. So she said, there's no such thing as your work speaking for yourself. You need to put your work out there. Your work will never speak for itself. So social media for me, I would always say, has been my biggest marketer. Social media has been my biggest cheerleader. To be honest, if I look at in a year my revenue, how many of those people that contributed to my growth that year are people that I know personally? Maybe not even 10%. They're all people from social media. And what happens is they see you on social media, they will always notice that you've done an event for a friend of theirs before. So they will definitely contact their friend and say, oh, I saw that this lady did your event. How is she? Now that is when word of mouth comes in. Word of mouth is strong. However, people still want to see for themselves and choose for themselves. And the only way they do that is they go back onto social media. So I always say to people that you are your biggest marketing agent. And until you advertise your own capability, your work will never speak for itself. Because everybody else is posting their work. They are not at the event to experience the event. They are making their decision based on what you have put out there. And everybody knows that you are only going to put your best work out there. So your work will never speak for itself, but your capabilities and how you advertise yourself is what is going to speak for you.
Well, I totally agree with you on that. Totally do. Okay, so now let's talk about staffing. I mean, how many staff do you have?
There was a point in my life where I had 90 people on payroll. Now, when you have 90 people on payroll, 90, whether or not you have an event, you are paying these people. And then luckily COVID hit. So it was a good time for me to, scale down and just keep a good number that I thought was, that, like I said, that I thought were good for my business. But then after COVID, I've had to scale them down again. I do have employees, but they are not on monthly payroll anymore because it's not working for my business model. And so now I work more like a consultant. So as my description, I am an event consultant. So when you come to me as a consultant, you hire people based on what you need them for, and then you let go. That's a better model for my business because COVID taught me that having all these people on payroll and you pay them anyway, whether or not you have an event, and something like COVID hits, you still expect to hold them down for quite a number of months when you're not even making any money. And the funny thing is, now when the ban was lifted, they were expected to be paid more. And I'm thinking, where do you think I got the money from to hold you down when we were not working? And even if I took out a loan, don't you think now that I have to work, it's time to pay back the loan? So how do you expect that I push you up? So the human dynamics were not working. So that's when I remodeled and said, you know what, I'd rather go in as a consultant. And then it also makes me more flexible to other things. As we grow and as you're running a business, there's a saying that if you look back at your life and in the last 6 months, you're at the same level, then you're not learning, you're not growing. So for me, I want to be able to be liberated to do anything else apart from events. For instance, I'm here now. If the UN calls me that they have a project on food insecurity, I need to be able to get up and go without feeling the burden of, I have 90 people that I need to pay. If I go, how is that going to affect me? So now my business model is on a consultancy level.
All right. So could you tell us, what is it like actually like managing 90 people?
I think managing 90 people made me somebody I never thought I would be. When I say that is, you need to learn to put your emotions aside. I'm a very nice person. I'm a very kind person. I like to laugh, but it's taught me that when you're working with people, people take you for granted. People do not know when to draw the line. So you need to be stern and firm, and you need to be mean even when that's not in your character, just to get the job done. Unfortunately, on this side of the work, people's work ethics are very different. So for instance, let me put a typical example. We have a deadline. Maybe we have to be at an event that starts at 10 a.m. We have to be there by 6 a.m. In UK, whether rain or shine or hailstone, you're on your way to work. Somebody knows that we have to be at an event at 6. As at 9, they're not there, and they'll tell you it was raining. And I'm like, huh? How is rain a good enough reason for you not to go and deliver? Whereas growing up, working in the Western world, even when it's snowing, you're on your way to work because you have to deliver. So the work ethics, it made me adjust. For instance, abroad, if a relative is dead or something, a relative is sick, that's your business, your problem to manage. It's not the company's problem to manage. But here, it's like once you inherit an employee, you inherit their problems, their family problems. So all that really weighs you down, especially when they are not pulling their weight in contributing to the success of the company.
Wow, that must have been tough.
Very tough.
I mean, things look really good, from the outside. Could you tell us about your dark moments as an entrepreneur?
The dark side of being an entrepreneur. Okay, you mentioned about human resource. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of people, and this is not a conversation I'm having by myself in front of my mirror. I've had this conversation with many business owners, many entrepreneurs. Everybody comes to you as a stepping stone for their next opportunity. Not a lot of people are coming to you to help you to be the next big thing. Every employee that comes through your hands is because they want to experience how it is to decide whether it's going to be suiting for them for their career. So you are taking a chance on them for them to make a decision about their lives. You are taking a chance on them to be their financial fix for that moment until they feel like they're ready to move on to the next big thing. I have conversations with people in the corporate, my friends that are on the corporate ladder, and especially abroad, their companies invest in their trainings. And the first thing I would ask is, would you feel bad if you have to leave because they've paid for you to do this course, they've paid for you to do that, they've paid for that throughout all your childbearing years, like when you've had your kids, they've covered your maternity leaves, you have all these benefits. Now, the company has invested so much in you and has helped you to build your life up to this point now, but now you feel you want to move on to the next employee who probably pay you more. Do you feel bad? And when I ask that question, they're almost quick to say, no, they don't feel bad. Then they remember that I'm the employer and I'm asking this question. So this is also another thing that I have learned as being an entrepreneur. Nobody is coming to you to help you. Everybody is coming to you for what they can get out of it. So you need to find the balance. And that's when you put your personal, your character aside, and look at what is good or bad for the business and make the decision solely based on, and not feel bad when it's time for them to move on. And I've also learned that for myself. I don't have to do Think Mahogany for the rest of my life if I'm tired or if my interest has changed. I need to be able to know when to say, you know what, I've had enough. It's okay if 20,000 people be out of a job because I have decided I no longer want to do an event. Because maybe the next thing I'm moving to will put 40,000 people in a job. So,
Being a female, is there rivalry in the event space?
what there are is a lot of cliques. You know, I find that, okay, without mentioning names, so for instance, maybe there's this particular decorator, then she has a whole clique of the person who does drinks, the person who does makeup, and they're like a clique of friends, and they move. So once one person in that clique gets a job, automatically they only use the people in that clique. So there are a lot of cliques in the event space. However, I'm somebody that I don't do cliques. I use people based on their expertise or what they have on offer or what my client needs from them, or if I feel they're best fit for what I'm looking for. There are a lot of cliques, which for me in itself is rivalry, because the moment you create a clique, you're automatically shutting out everybody else. And that's, of course, that's going to cause some rift. So, and also, when we say rivalry in a female space, rivalry is built on jealousy half of the time. And what I find is sometimes, you know, you asked me a question where you said, do I only use vendors that I like? Or would I say total no when a client brings a vendor on board that I've never used before? Now, there are a lot of females that will probably find you as competition. So, for instance, a female planner may be asked, oh, can you use, let's say, Think Mahogany for decor? Because she's already feeling like intimidated by my presence in her space, she automatically say, oh, no, don't use that, use this person rather. So it might not come up as rivalry automatically, but there's a lot of jealousy, and jealousy kills opportunities. Jealousy kills relationships, because you never know, maybe working with me may even put you at a better advantage for your next gig.
What advice would you give to other events planners out there who are facing, things like rivalry and stuff like that? What advice would you give to them?
Well, work hard and market your capabilities. Let people know that somebody's nay will not be the reason why you can't deliver. You can't be that preferred vendor. Somebody can come say, no, don't use it. And the client say, no, I'm going to use her because I've seen what she's able to do. I've seen what she's capable of doing. I've seen what she's done for other people. So your nay is not going to be my nay. Your nay is my yay. You understand? And also, another thing is, Lekon, I am very spiritual. So I'm a Christian and I pray a lot. And I also believe in discernment. So when somebody's around me and I can pick on bad energy, I can easily pick on bad energy. I can pick on, because I'm a praying woman. So God protects me. God will not put me in rooms where I'll be darkened. God puts me in rooms where even when people try and push me down, my light will shine bright, And I always say, God, let me walk on land of gold under the clouds of favor, clouds of grace, clouds of glory, clouds of opportunity. So when I walk into a room, I know what I'm made of and I know who is backing me. So because of that, I shut my ears to all the naysayers. I shut my ear to negativity. I stay focused on that prayer that I prayed when I left my house that morning. And I stay focused on what I'm there to do, and I deliver.
Well said, well said. Okay, Debbie, as we round up the interview, what advice do you have for women all over the world who want to go into the entrepreneurship field just like you are, but they are scared, they don't have the money, they feel it's a man's world, they get sexually harassed? What's your advice to them?
I don't think money should be the reason you should never do anything that you want to do. I don't think the fear of being sexually harassed should be the reason why you shouldn't do what you really want to do. Because, we are all born with our stars. And you holding back on what your heart desires to do is also holding back a lot of people the opportunity to experience you. So for me, when I started Think Mahogany, I didn't have any money. And up to date, I've never taken out a loan from any bank. I let my money work for me. So once I get the money, I put it back into the business. And then we move on. I never let money be the reason why I don't grow. I never let money be the reason why. Or a groom hitting on me the night before their wedding has never stopped me from doing the wedding. You have to stay focused. You know what you're capable of. You know what you want to get. You go for it. You start small. A lot of people want to start big. That's the problem. That's the real money problem. Nobody wants to start small. They think they have to wait till they get this big capital. No, you have to start with what you have. Your brain is your number one tool. When the money comes, you still need your brain anyway. Mm-hmm. The money is not going to go and talk for you. Your brain is going to talk for you. Your skill is going to talk for you. Your ability, your capability, your hard work is going to talk for you. So really use those main functioning resources and then chase the money. Don't let I don't have money be the reason why you don't start using your brain.
You heard it from Debbie. Do not allow money to be the reason why you don't use your
brain.
All right, thanks a lot, David. Thanks a lot for coming here with us on the show.
Thank you so much.
Lovely having you here on
me.
Just Women Africa.
Thank you so much.
It's been a long time coming.
I know, right? Thank you so much for having
You're welcome.
me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And to our viewers who are watching, don't forget to like, subscribe, tell a friend who knows their friend about Just Women Africa. And from here, from Debbie and I, it will be bye.